probably that was like 22, 23. Then I started that my weight loss journey. It probably wasn't until closer in my 30s that I thought, well, this journey that I've gone on, it's been such a slow process because all I did was like experiments for myself. I never got a health coach for myself. I was just doing it on my own. And so I would research and learn something new, learn new foods to add in, some foods that might not be, so great. I was into working out, it was through my journey, but not until my 30s that I thought, well, maybe as much as I struggled through this process, maybe I could help others so they don't have to struggle as much, kind of get them in the right direction. So it doesn't have to take them a whole decade, to do what I did. So that's when the thought became, well, maybe I could help others.
Welcome back to a new episode on the Truth That Heals podcast. I'm with a special guest coming all the way from San Antonio, health coach Laurie Rager. Laurie, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Good morning, Ryan. So good to see you.
It's so good to see you, and I see that you are into health. How long have you been practicing as a health coach for?
Well, I have left my corporate job about a year ago now, so I've been doing it full-time for a year. But I've been doing it part-time another 5 years, so 6 years total.
6 years total. So,
Yeah.
wow, that's quite an achievement in life that you've left your corporate job and now you're doing it full-time. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I feel like I'm really living my purpose now, so it feels good.
Awesome. I love to hear that you feel that you're living your purpose. And
Yeah.
I know that health is something very, very important for many of the listeners. It's something very important to me as well. I've always been on my health journey and I've gone through ups and downs. And one of the reasons why I did this podcast, The Truth That Heals, is to find health in different perspectives on health, not just healing from the cult, as you know, my journey, but I also want to heal from all sides. And health, nutrition is something that I really value very much. I've known you for quite a few years now, and it's so good to have you on the show to talk about health. So, before we really even get started, talking about your practice and the work that you do, I wanted to ask you some personal questions, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Not too personal, but we're just just to get to understand. Were you always with the mindset of health and having a healthy body, healthy mind? Did you grow up with that kind of mindset, or were you more of an living an unhealthy lifestyle growing up?
Well, I think that I've had my ups and downs as everybody does. In high school, I can remember being body conscious and trying to eat in a way that was low calorie. That was my mindset in high school, to eat as little as possible and exercise, so that was my mindset then. And then I got in a relationship who happened to be my ex-husband. And when I get in that relationship, as many of us do, we start going out to eat, we're going to the movies, eating popcorn, whatever. And so he had the belief that I was beautiful no matter what, no matter my size, which I really appreciated that. It helped me love myself and my body as well. But over time, this eating out and getting into unhealthy habits really made me start packing on the weight. So I gained about 60 pounds within a couple years. And I didn't really have the realization that it was creeping up because I was like trying to ignore it, I'm just trying to love my body, but I got on the scale, and at that point I was 60 pounds from the last time I weighed myself. And I was shocked, I was just like, okay, I have to do something, because not only is the weight 60 pounds make me look different, I was not being able to go through the day without napping. I was exhausted all the time. I would go to school for a couple hours, and I would have to sleep a couple hours. My health was declining, even though I was only in my 20s, So at that point, I decided, okay, I've got to get back to, at least take out the fast food. Okay, at least like minimize the eating out in the restaurants. And so that's kind of how that process started. And very slowly, I started to lose the weight. But I was doing it on my own, so I didn't have a lot of direction. I was just kind of experimenting, with eating no chips, add carrots, very basic things. And this helped me lose weight, but it was a very slow process.
Let me get this straight. So when you were young, when you were still growing up, you didn't really have an unhealthy lifestyle? It was only when you were a grown up that you started to see the weight kind of start packing on?
True, yes. When I was younger, my mother was really good at making us meals. She always had very balanced meals. She had a protein, she had a starch, and she had a vegetable. Every dinner that we had was very balanced. So whereas health wasn't like ingrained in us, we did eat balanced. So my weight issues didn't start until I think later on in high school.
Okay. And then so when you started to see the weight gain, what was the first thing that you changed or that you decided to do to change that?
I think the main thing I knew for sure was the fast food. We relied heavily our meals on fast food at least once a day. We were going through some sort of drive-through. I can remember, Taco Cabana tacos at 3 a.m., like that kind of stuff. So, that was easier to take away the fast food. Also, big thing was I was a soda drinker. So that I took out. And not only did I was suffering from UTIs, bladder infection, kidney infections. When I took out the sodas, all of those stopped. So I took out fast food, I took out sodas, and then the weight just started coming off slowly.
And so as you were on this journey making these small changes, when did it occur to you, or when did the thought cross your mind, you know what? I want to be a health coach. Was that
Mm.
already part of the journey, or did that come after? What
It
led to
really
that?
was. It was really probably that was like 22, 23. Then I started that my weight loss journey. It probably wasn't until closer in my 30s that I thought, well, this journey that I've gone on, it's been such a slow process because all I did was like experiments for myself. I never got a health coach for myself. I was just doing it on my own. And so I would research and learn something new, learn new foods to add in, some foods that might not be, so great. I was into working out, it was through my journey, but not until my 30s that I thought, well, maybe as much as I struggled through this process, maybe I could help others so they don't have to struggle as much, kind of get them in the right direction, so it doesn't have to take them a whole decade, to do what I did. So that's when the thought became, well, maybe I could help others.
And so that came a little bit later on.
Yeah, it was probably closer in my 30s that I started thinking about doing it for other people.
So you mentioned that one of your habits was going every day to Taco Cabana or to another drive-through. For those
Yeah,
who aren't in Texas, Taco Cabana
yeah,
is like it's like a Taco Bell kind of thing, but
uh-huh.
it's
Oh,
just a little bit it's different.
yeah, yeah.
So for
I
those
would
who
say
aren't,
better.
I think
For
so. I
San
think
Antonio,
Taco,
I would say better. But it's the fast food version, Mexican food. but it's good and it's so cheap. So
It's affordable. It's very, very good
yeah.
food. But hey, they're not sponsoring us.
No, 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 no.
But
I would never.
anyways, you mentioned how that was one of your routines,
Yeah.
going at least once a day. Um, what did you do to kind of curve that routine? Did you make new routines, new habits? Did you have some kind of a exercise that you would do to help you stop doing that?
Well, I think that at first it's just like, well, it's first you start off with willpower, right? You know that this is something that you have to do to to stop the cycle. And so that momentum that you have, that willpower at first, because you got on the scale and you saw that number and you're like freaked out, and it's like you have to do something. Um, but it's difficult because I was living with somebody who didn't have any kind of um, care of their weight. So it is at first you just have to set those boundaries with people who are in your life that don't have any kind of want to do the same for themselves. So whereas he had no problem going through drive-throughs, he has no issue with his weight or his health. I just have to keep on setting those boundaries like, no, I'm not going to eat this. Even though you're going to go through the drive-through, I'm not going to get this food. I'm going to eat at home. And it's really tough at first, to create those boundaries, whereas people just assume that you're going to eat with them or drink with them. But you have to start creating those boundaries for yourself.
And I think you mentioned a little earlier that you were also you were doing a lot of research on like what ingredients to buy, and was was cooking healthy? Was that ever part of your lifestyle before you started gaining the weight, or you had no concern
Yeah.
regarding that?
Yeah, that's a good point because, I went from living at my parents' house where my mother made meals, in high school and whatnot, and I was fed these balanced meals, to moving out. I moved out when I was 18 years old. And so, when you're just 18 years old and you're just trying to figure it out, like I didn't know how to cook. And that's probably what lent itself to all the fast food and going to out eat, restaurants and whatnot. I never learned how to cook. So this situation, me wanting to lose weight and eat healthier, made me have to learn how to cook something. It started so simple, and not gonna lie, I probably cook like this sometimes as still. It's like hamburger meat, chopped up vegetable, put it all together. That's a meal. My fast food now is a salad. It's like I go home and I can make that salad or I can make that dinner. That's like how I live always. It's like 5-minute meals, hamburger meat, vegetable, you learn how to cook, but I still learn and create meals that are super, super simple.
So your journey to becoming a health coach wasn't just I gotta lose weight. It was I need to change my entire lifestyle, correct?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's because that's the only way to do it. It starts off with small little changes, but it kind of perpetuates itself into your whole life is changing.
So now can you walk us through how was the process when you decided to become a health coach? Was it you just went to school and it was just a
Mhm.
1 month thing, or
Mhm.
was there more involved?
Yeah. So at the time, I've always been in some sort of counselor, therapy, some version of that since high school, which I'm an advocate to always getting help on the mental, emotional side. Uh, and I had a counselor at the time who, picks up on my passion for this, nutrition, working out. And she was the one that actually suggested, like, what if, you become a health coach? And it's like, oh, well, that's amazing idea. I'm not one to have a thought and jump for it. It takes time to process it and digest it and see what would that look like for me. And I did some research and programs, and I found a program that sounded like it worked for me, things that I was interested in learning more about. So I signed up for that program, and I think it took about a year to complete it, but I enjoyed the whole process. It was like, if you could go back and do it all over again, right out of high school, I went to college and just picked something, because what 18-year-old really knows what they want to do for the rest of their lives, but if I could have gone back and, really done something like got my degree, 4-year degree in what I was learning in my 30s, that would have been great, because I loved every minute of it.
So it wasn't just in your 30s or late 20s when you felt this need to become a health coach. Already as a teenager, you already kind of felt that pull towards health and coaching others.
Well, no, in high school, no. In high school, because what I ended up getting my degree in, I think what you're referring to, I got my degree in information systems. So I got my degree in computers and stuff I was good at, but it definitely wasn't like my passion. So yeah, in high school, I had no idea that I would want to be a health coach. I was just, being a teenager,
Okay, okay.
eating fast food and thinking that was fine.
So how was the journey like for you when you started taking the classes on health and becoming a health coach? How did it feel when you finally went through that class and became a certified health coach?
Oh yeah, I was just so proud, and because I took the risk of doing something like that and I completed it. And like I said, I loved every minute of it, learning, uh, what I think the course that I went through really pointed out, and something that I didn't really realize, that I learned on my own, is how much emotional component there is into. It's not just what we eat and working out. I mean, it's so much more. It's so much more of our stress levels, what we've gone through trauma wise, what we're holding on to. That course really just started to open my eyes on the bigger picture of it all.
And earlier you mentioned that just a year ago you've left your corporate job to focus on this full time. With
Right.
that, before that you were working part time for 5 years. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
How did it feel when you were able to, even in that part time? I know you have two things going on, but how were you able to balance having a full time job and also doing your health coach practice?
Right. Well, at the beginning, I was in a particular position to where I did have a lot more free time. So trying to balance it outside of work was working for a short while. I had my clients on the side. I did my full-time job, all as well. Having one or two clients on the side just to keep that going. But then fortunately slash unfortunately, I took a manager position at my firm, and then my free time or free mental capacity to do the health coaching on the side kind of closed in. I wasn't able to put as much effort into the health coaching that I would need to maintain clients. So that really fell to the wayside for a couple years. I just had maybe one client here and there. With the management position, that was my focus. Being this manager of this department. It was through quarantine. We had a lot of work-life balance, and everything was hunky-dory at the firm, but then I had to go back full time. And so whereas it was a whisper and always a plan of mine to eventually get out of this job to do health coaching full time, I went back from being quarantined into the office, and that whisper really started to be a shout, and it got louder and louder to where I just realized that if this is what I'm going to do with my life, being a health coach, that I just had to let that all go. And I had to, jump in full feet first, how they say, and just go for it. So I did it. I quit my corporate job of 17 years, and this is my main focus.
Now, real quick, because I think that's a very important part of your story. How you mentioned just, you made that decision. You felt it wasn't a whisper, it became a shout. But there are so many people, even, me, we've all had our ups and downs in life, and there might be like a nudge where it's hey, it's time to move on to something bigger. It's time to, hey, you've already done so much work, go follow your passion. But there is this thing called fear. How did you say the hell with the fear? I'm going to do what I have to do. Like what did you do, or what were your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Fear is real with regards to, what would our lives look like if we didn't have the fears that are holding us back? And I was afraid all the way through. But at the time, I had my own health coach that was assisting me and knowing that this is what I wanted to do. So I had somebody, really cheering me on, and not just her, but my whole friend base. My whole friend base knew this is what I wanted to do, so they encouraged me. I have some really great friends that kind of went before me. They quit their corporate jobs, and were successful. And I could see that they survived it. They were doing fine. They were happier. So it was, it wasn't just me getting over my fears. I really did have great support behind me to, emotionally give me that nudge that I was going to be okay.
So you just said that you also have a health coach.
Yes.
So a part of me thought that maybe I'm being naive or just ignorant, that once you're a health coach, you got it made, you know what to do. What is the importance of a health coach having a health coach?
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's a great point. None of us are doing this on our own, just because I put myself forward to help others doesn't mean that I have it all figured out. By all means, I just want to be able to help, people get to where I've gotten, not saying that I'm already there. This life is long, and we're all trying to improve ourselves in our own ways. We're constantly in a place of growth, and this life, we're never going to get there. Wherever there is, it is constant growth. So definitely I need somebody to encourage me. I need to have accountability for myself, but that doesn't mean I'm any different to be able to help people get, to where they need to go. It's, I would question any coach or therapist or counselor that isn't doing their own work, because this kind of, being a coach or being a therapist, being a counselor, it's kind of can get heavy sometimes. You listen to people and what they're going through. So you need to have modalities to process that, to where you're good, so you need to make sure that you're working on yourself actually even more so you can be a space for somebody to for you to help them.
And you said something which I think is very important, constant growth. So I see that your practice has really evolved and it's really been growing, not only with the nutritional side, but I see that you're also getting into this thing called, and correct me if I'm mispronouncing it, bioenergetics.
That is
Uh,
correct.
can you fill us in. What is bioenergetics?
Sure, absolutely. It's kind of, yeah, so my health coaching, like you said, has had different varieties, and it's been a process to get me where I'm at now. I mentioned, with the course that I took, it brought in the emotional component of this whole thing, that it's not just about the eating and working out. The emotional component kind of brought me into bioenergetics and joining the practice that I'm in right now, which is holistic wealth. Bioenergetics basically is just the study of how cells utilize energy. And so we have all these cells in our bodies, right? And if you're feeling great, that's because your cells have good energy in them, they're high voltage. And when we're not feeling so great, it's because our cells are low energy, low voltage. And so over time, if our cells have low energy, low voltage, then that is when we have disease coming in. Over time, it's not the emotional component. Any trauma that somebody might have lends to the low energy in the cells, the low voltage. And so that's where our physical ailments come into play, and dis-ease. So with bioenergetics, we're studying how these cells utilize energy, and with our body field testing that we do at our practice, that allows us to see any energy blockages that you have within your body. And so therefore we can send your body the frequencies that it needs to get those cells energized, and getting you feeling better.
Okay, this might sound like way off, but
I
have you ever seen the movie Patch Adams?
haven't.
Okay, it's like a 90s film with Robin Williams, and
Uh-huh.
I haven't seen this recently, but all that you're saying about the cells and the trauma and how it lends itself to being open to disease, it really reminded me
Mhm.
of this film. And I could be off, but it's 'cause I haven't seen it since the 90s. But what I
Mhm.
remember is that spoilers for those who haven't seen Patch Adams, he's a doctor who goes to see people who are terminally ill, and
Ah,
what he does is he gives them laughter to kind of
mm,
change the energy, because it
mm.
really it really changes the person. So would you say that are you trying to bring joy to your clients? Is it something like that where you're changing their attitude, or is it is there something totally different? Am I way off? Like, can you explain to
No,
us?
that's a beautiful example, because that's a beautiful example of energy, because you hear the people have low vibes or high vibes. When you're around somebody, you can feel kind of their energy of, they're in a bad mood, or you're around somebody and they're in a good mood, and that makes you feel good. I mean, that's literally the energy exchange that we all have. And so in our practice, kind of both. So there's an aspect of talking to the person, seeing where they're at emotionally. What are their stressors in their life? What is their energy levels? What is their digestion like? And there's going to be a component of counseling the person as to what they can do in their life better to be more uplifted, to have more joy in their life. There's that component. And then there's the component that we actually scan the person with a device to see what energy blockages they might have within their body. And then we lay them down and put on nice meditation music. And then I run a device on their body in their different points of the meridians to send their body the frequencies that it is looking for that day. And so the combination of that is really what gets people feeling so much better.
Okay, so it's um not just the device alone, but like you mentioned, it's talking to the person, trying to understand what their vibes are or
Yeah,
frequency.
right, right. Yeah, it's just like a counseling component. It's just talking to people with what they're going through, how is their work life, how is their relationships, giving them different tools and techniques that could help them, during times of stress. We also do Bach flower remedies, which is flower essence. I make them tinctures that work on the particular emotions that they might be going through. So we just kind of hit it in many different angles to get the person, feeling better, more high vibe.
And how has this evolved your practice? I mean, like how much of an impact has it made on the work that you do, including bioenergetics in your toolbox?
Right. So it's kind of like, before I was just coaching based on just talking to somebody and giving them meal plans and whatnot, and talking a little bit about their stressors. But I feel like adding bioenergetics into my practice was able to like kind of shortcut a lot of this stuff, whereas I'm just kind of just trying to talk to somebody through, whatever they're going through. I have a modality now that kind of circumvents all the talking and is able to send these frequencies to their body, to get them feeling better faster.
And have the clients, have they given you like any feedback? And if so,
Yeah.
like, can you share some of that?
Sure, yeah. I've had amazing turnarounds, and just to add, I'm working on humans and animals. So I really enjoy adding the animal aspect to it. But with humans, just a particular client that's coming to mind. She came to me just because she was struggling emotionally. She had a lot of pain. She was diagnosed with MS several years ago. So, all of the symptoms that have come up because of that. I started working with her, and yeah, she just wanted to feel better, like less pain, get more emotionally grounded. She happened to be not in the most positive relationship at the moment. And so I just started seeing her weekly, and her digestion started to improve. She wasn't going to the bathroom every day. She was going like once every 3 days. And so we started working that, that was coming up on the scan, her digestive system. So we started sending her the signals, giving her the frequencies that she needed on a weekly basis. And this wasn't even our intention, but over time, several months, she lost almost 20 pounds. And so, whereas she wasn't coming to me even for weight loss, that wasn't her main goal. But that was a wonderful, happy side effect that she experienced, along with being more emotionally grounded. And she made some major changes in her life over that time. And she was really happy, with the weight loss. But it was unexpected because when you balance the body does what it needs to do to heal. We don't have to force the body into doing the things. It's you balance the body and then it takes care of you.
Okay, very powerful.
Yeah,
Uh,
thanks.
so you mentioned you take care of humans and also dogs, or is it just
Yeah.
dogs, cats?
I've only had dog clients. I have not yet have a cat client, but well, I say that my mango, who just passed in June, he was my cat client. They said a year ago that he probably wouldn't last another month, and then he lasted a whole nother year because I went home and started treating him.
Right
You know,
away.
right away. He was 18 years old. He lived a long life, but other clients has only been dogs. Yeah.
And is this only in person, or do you also do this like through uh not social media, but like do you also do this
Like
like
virtual.
online?
Online is definitely possible. I have not had, not with animals. Animals would have to be in person. Humans, I would be able to do virtual calls for sure.
Okay, and are you still open to having more clients or?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm still growing my business. You know, it's been a year, and yeah, the more, the more.
Okay, and so where can people find your business?
We are on all three platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, under Holistic Wealth SA, Holistic, and then Wealth, WELLTH, and then SA for San Antonio. That is also our website, www.holisticwealthsa.com.
And if there are people from outside of Texas, are you able to work with them as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's we can scan, voice scan, and then I would be able to go over them their scan and talk to them about what's coming up for them virtually for sure.
Okay, that sounds very, very helpful so that people can find you and your practice. Just to kind of start wrapping things up. For those who are struggling, who are in uh, desperate times where they feel that things are just, they can't overcome their struggles with weight loss, or not even weight loss, but with their own health, what words of advice or words of hope can you give them?
Yes, and we've all been through it, you know, I'm no exception to the rule. I've struggled with my own emotional, mental, physical health. We all are on this trampoline of life, and sometimes we jump down and it feels so low, but always know that we are going to rebound even higher. You know, every struggle is a lesson, and you will always prevail. I think that it is always helpful that if you can reach out to somebody else. When we're feeling low, sometimes we don't want to reach out. Our feelings are that we want to isolate. I think it's if you can hire a coach to really get to what's going on with you, you know, is the ultimate. Somebody can help you through this time. But regardless, even when you don't feel like you want to, always reach out to somebody else, because having that outside perspective can really get you out of whatever you're going through.
Thank you so much, Laurie. I think that was very very helpful to me and to the audience. And to everyone watching on this YouTube or those who are listening on the podcast platforms, thank you so much. I've been your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, with special guest Laurie Rager, and you've been listening to the Truth That Heals podcast. Have a good day.